We would like to call a meeting to order. Mr. Manning, would you give us a roll call, please?
District 1, Mr. Duffy, present. District 2, Mr. Greenville, present. And District 3, Ms. Gilbert.
Present.
District 4, Mr. Sis. Present. Chairman also present.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. At this time, would you all stand for the invocation? This week, Jim Arnold, Revenue Commissioner.
Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for all the blessings that you bestow on us, Lord. We thank you for this beautiful county we live in, Lord. We just pray as our leaders enter into this meeting tonight, Lord, I just pray that you give them discernment, Lord, that you just give them grace. And Lord, we just pray, Lord, you just watch over all those that are in need around us. Lord, we pray for those that are in harm's way today. And Lord, we just pray that you help us to be mindful of them. Lord, watch over us, guide us, and direct us. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If you would, Ms. Gilbert's going to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item we have is approval of the agenda for today's work session. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. Is there any discussion concerning this? Okay, with no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. First item for discussion, this has to do with the county administrator's contract. This was brought to my attention Thursday by the HR director. The administrator had a new contract, and one of the things that was left off of it was annual leave. It was on the other contract, and this was just inadvertently left off. So I think we can, any discussion concerning this? I think this is something we can correct. I move to just put this on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, the next thing that we have is bus passes for homeless.
Yes, I had that put on there because I was receiving phone calls. We had discussed it a few months ago. They're wanting them for the cost of buses or the council on aging buses. Does anyone know where we stand with that? That's something Matthew was working on, talking with the city of Scottsboro.
How many they need?
No, I don't think. See, Matthew was being the in-between there, so.
Last time I talked with Thurman, she showed me the number, but we never have got back with any kind of numbers.
And I knew we were going to discuss with Scottsboro.
I'll talk with Larry Anderson and Ms. Thurman this coming week, and maybe by the next work session that we can have that handed out and have what kind of numbers there are. In fact, if it suits everybody, we'll just go on with this on the next work session. Next thing that we have on the agenda is an EMA director position. I talked with HR director, this was Thursday, and I think in the past, we were going to have, Mr. Jackson was going to serve as EMA director for 90 days, and then during this time, we're going to accept applications. Well, in talking with the HR director, the current job description is out of date. It goes back to August 1990, and there have been some new things that's been added from the state perspective that would, if we don't put them into play in the job description, it could cost us some money. And as Mr. Jackson knows, some of this certification you have to have, it can cost the county like $12,000 a year, and this does not state so in the job description that you have to have that. So I plan to do the homework on it and have an up-to-date job description by the next meeting. So, 1990. In July 14 and 16, I gave some job requirements that needed to be done that never was actually approved by the commission to make a new job description. So there's no objection. I'll place him on the agenda for the next meeting. Okay, the next thing is commission meeting time change.
I had that put on there also. Guys, I'd like to ask that we move to 5 o'clock. Does anybody have any objections with that?
I think we made it 2:30.
I'll see.
I say let's do it, Chad.
I don't have a problem.
Does anyone have a problem with it? I promise we'll get you out as fast as possible, Jason. It's just killing me. I'm getting off the bus at 10 minutes and 5 minutes before.
There's no objection, I'll place this on the agenda for next meeting. This is all that we have for the comments from the commission at this time. We'll ask for a report from the staff. With the county administrator, do you have anything today?
Nothing today, so thank you.
Our engineer's not with us today, and the attorney is out of town. Mr. Harnan, do you have anything from the sheriff department?
Just want to let you know that we took delivery of the animal control truck this week. It's being striped and blue lights put on it within the next few days, and we'll be passing down his truck to maintenance.
Mr. Harnan, you have anything to review on? Mr. Jackson, you have anything with the EMA?
No, sir.
Okay, the next thing that we have is announcements. Will be a presentation from Biosolids with the coordinator from the city of Chattanooga presentation. We turn it over to you, Ms. Karen Stein.
Deputy Director Jeff Rose.
Okay, we're gonna set up the
I'll move
projector here.
out of the way.
Yeah, we're shining right up there. Oh, yeah. He must work
Okay, everyone.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. I am Jeff Rose, Deputy Director of Moxie Wastewater Plant. Waste Resources Division is who we are, and that is the wastewater collection system and the plant, as you see there, picture there. And we do appreciate the invitation from former Chairman Hodges, and then want to thank Chairman Ashburn and the whole commission for letting us come and just give some information about what we do and the material we produce. We also appreciate the partnership we've had for the last couple of years with farmers here in the community, and we want to just give some background about what we do at the plant and the material that we produce. And just to say up front, we're always open to questions and giving any information we need to help solve problems that might come up in the community. And we account for every pound of material we produce and meet all the EPA regs and state guidelines, and we have all the data for that. Just a statement up front about that. We also have, I meant to mention, we do have Rick Tate here, our pre-treatment supervisor, and he's been around for, I don't know how many years, Rick, 40 years working at the plant in the industrial pre-treatment program, and Karen Stiers, who's our coordinator of our program. Here's just a few things we're going to talk about, and we'll talk about them briefly. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. So industrial pretreatment is the first thing that makes sure our biosolids are high quality. We have a pretreatment program that's approved by the state of Tennessee and EPA. We actually won an award this year from Kentucky, Tennessee for our program, and we regulate 80 significant industrial users. Those are users that are listed by EPA saying they have a particular type of waste process and that requires us to test their wastewater, and they test their own also. So there's a lot of standards that have to meet for metals, organics, anything that can pass through our treatment system and get into the environment, or anything that can interfere with our treatment. We have to limit because it'll hurt our plant. So we have to make sure those things stay out of the plant. And so they also, when they stay out of the plant, they also stay out of the biosolids that come out of the plant. So we do a lot of testing. Pre-treatment department personnel have collected 100 years of experience in what we do. And as we said, Rick's been there 40 years. He's kind of the dean of pre-treatment coordinators, really in the southeast here. He's done his work a long time. So what we do at the wastewater plant is a combination of physical processes, which is to screen out any garbage. I mean, you all know what wastewater is. It's not good stuff. So we screen out the trash and any kind of garbage. We then settle out heavy stuff like silt, gravel that might be in there. Biological processes, that's the meat of the wastewater plant. What treats the wastewater is actually microorganisms that grow in basins out there. And they're a lot of the same microorganisms that are in our bodies and also occur in nature, and they eat up the contaminants in the wastewater. It's very simple. It's been done that way for thousands of years, literally. We also have some chemical processes. We do add a disinfectant to our wastewater, treated water before it goes to the river, and we also add some things to help solids settle out a little better. It's a huge plant, it says thousands of pieces of equipment. This shows the flow coming in, where we screen out. We have fine screens down to a 1/4 inch, remove the grit and sand. It goes through a process of primary clarification where things just settle out. And the water goes into some aeration basins, which is that's where we grow these microorganisms. And that's what eats up the contaminants, like I said. And because there's so much waste concentrated in one place, we grow too many of these microorganisms. We grow more than we need. And so that's where the biosolids come from. It's excess microorganisms that treat wastewater. And it's interesting, if you go out to the plant, and you're all welcome to come to the plant anytime and see what we do. There is a channel that's on the other side of that where it says pure O2 aeration. And you can go out there and the stuff's churning up. It's kind of brown and it just looks like, thick chocolate soup kind of looking stuff. But it doesn't really have much odor to it because the contaminants have been consumed. So there's just not much odor. It's more like a musty kind of smell. So then that mixture goes into these clarifiers that the water is still and the sludge settles to the bottom, or those organisms settle to the bottom. Clear water goes over the top. We disinfect it, dechlorinate it, and put it out in the river. And then the solids, we got a little arrow showing what the solids do. From primary clarifiers, they go to some thickeners, which just helps the solids thicken up. It goes to digesters, anaerobic digestion, which a digester is what it sounds like. These little bugs are just eating each other up, basically, so it reduces the volume, and it also stabilizes that bacteria, so that it's just not as reactive once you get it out in the environment. And then we also, there's two different kinds of sludge. It's not particularly important for what we're doing here, but the stuff that comes off the bottom of the clarifiers, our secondary clarifiers, also go in. We mix it all together. We de-water it, take the water out of it with centrifuges, and then we stabilize it with lime. With lime addition, that's how we get our vector attraction reduction is a number we talk about. And that's when we add enough lime to make sure we meet the state requirements so that things like flies and other things don't want to settle in this stuff and they're not attracted by it.
Sir, could I ask you a question about the lime?
Yeah, yeah.
Where do you get your lime at?
We get our lime from, I'm trying to remember where we get it, who's our,
We were just ordering a new contract.
yeah, we do blanket contracts with vendors. We bid it out every year, and it comes from, I'm not sure where it comes from, honestly. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But I can find out and get it to you.
It don't come from Portland Cement, does it?
I don't think it comes directly from Portland Cement. I'm not sure, I'd have to check, honestly, but I can do that.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking that question,
Yeah,
that Portland Cement, it's not lime. That's
Well,
giving us,
yeah, now we do
It's not lime.
we get lime that we add to one of our processes where we dewater. We have two different processes, a filter press process where we add quicklime, that is lime. And I say lime generically. The other product we use is a lime kiln dust or a cement kiln dust that, I don't know what percentage of lime is in there, maybe 25, 30% lime, and we blend that with the wastewater biosolids. And what all that does is it raises the pH of the mix. It has to be above 12 for 2 hours. Then it has to be above 11.5 pH for 22 more hours. That's what the EPA requires. And if it does that, and we test it on a regular basis, test it every batch before it goes out. If it does not meet that, we put it back in the system and we don't let it back out, or we take it to the landfill possibly. But yeah, it's not all straight lime. It's also another product. It's a waste product from cement production, but it has the same effect. We just have to add more to it. We add.
you just verified what I asked.
Yeah. Is that
You verified it where it comes from.
Excuse me if you would, this is their presentation, and let them finish the presentation,
Okay.
and after that, it'll be room for other discussion.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that. So these are we do a lot of lab testing, and it's conducted all throughout the process. We test the liquid and the solid portion of what we produce. We produce a treated water, and we also produce these biosolids, this biosolid product. We test for all sorts of, organic things, and we test for metals. And like it says here, biosolids are not released to be land applied until proven acceptable through laboratory testing. And we meet, there's a lot of different things we meet. You can see there who we're certified through. We meet 40 CFR 503 regulations, that's EPA's regulations. Those came out early 90s, and they studied those. It's one of the most studied, you can research it if you want. It's one of the most studied regulations that EPA has ever done. And because they knew it's going to be going on people's land, and they wanted to make sure it was right. So, and we've been approved by Tennessee Department of Agriculture, and there's some other things. There's some studies we have in here that show less metal content than traditional manure type products, and agronomic rates are set for this material primarily because of the lime content. You only put so much lime on the field, as most everybody knows, or you raise the pH up too high where you can't grow grass and it hurts the field. So that's what normally limits us, is that lime. And we're monitored by all these organizations. So this is a sheet that shows some of what we found in our testing and the EPA limit, corresponding limit in the 503 regs. You can see we're well below every limit up there. Particularly see things like mercury that are very, very much lower than the limit. Cadmium's a big one, chromium, all of them are well below. We're also well below the fecal limit, which significantly lower than that. This was just showing some of the things that we found a study on. Livestock manures can also often be higher in these metals than our product is. These are all lower than EPA standards also, though. So they're good, there's nothing wrong with them. It's just showing that we are significantly lower generally than than a standard manure type fertilizer. We did do some testing recently in Alabama, Flat Rock area, and just because of, there was a question about what was out there. And for reference, we show our instantaneous limit for E. coli in the stream is 487. That's maximum probable number. That's basically colonies that could be, and that's per 100 milliliters, so it's a sample of, small sample bottle, about like that big. That's how many colonies can be in that sample. Our maximum monthly average is 126, and these are limits the state puts on us to make sure the river is swimmable and fishable. So in this pond, or these ponds that were tested, those are the numbers, and you can see they're well below our limits. And the limits you find in ponds, or the levels of E. coli you find in a pond, can vary drastically depending on what might be standing around the pond. If a cow standing in it, it'll drive it out the roof. So this was after some application of our biosolids, and this is what was tested in these ponds near where we had applied biosolids. So again, some regulatory agencies we answer to, a whole list of folks, and we meet all the requirements regarding the biosolids. That's just a picture of, bottom line is, where biosolids get put, you can grow grass better. That's just normally the way it works. So, and that's why it's done all over the world, all over the country, all over the world. And here's some contact information about Karen. This is Karen here, and that's her phone number and email address. Effective November 1st, we're going to be utilizing our 311 call center. That's the number for that, and we'll spread that around to whoever needs it. The reason for that is they do a really good job of recording phone calls and recording whatever the problem is, and make sure it gets tracked, it gets into our system really well. So we want to make sure we don't miss any kind of complaints that come with the biosolids program, and want to be able to answer them as quickly as possible. So that's why we want to use our call center to do that. So that's all we have. If you have any questions?
How many tons of biosolid product comes out of the plant?
Every year we produce 70,000 tons. 70,000 tons of dry material, which is, that's the number.
70,000 wet.
70,000 wet tons, which is,
It varies by.
it's probably, 20-30% solids.
Do you hold a lot of it at the facility, or does it go out immediately when it comes out of the plant? Does it go out immediately?
It goes out as soon as we test it and verify that it meets the land application standards. We hold very little of it. If it's raining, sometimes we have to hold it. If it cannot be spread, we'll hold it.
About how many acres of land you spread that 70,000?
I'll have to ask Aaron about that. I'm not sure.
That's something you have to check on.
These guys, this is Denali, this is our contractor.
Based on the crop, it will vary because every crop, we go through Auburn to get a rate. So in Alabama, in Tennessee, we use UTK. But with Auburn, so corn, they give us a rate for corn, which soybeans is a different rate. But
Average rate of
will
application.
be, so the more corn, the less land, would be the easiest way to answer it. But I maintain about 15,000 acres. That's within 2 states and
7 counties.
7 counties, and we try almost like have an 18-month rotation, so we're not in your place every November. We're 18 months to be spread out. So we have a lot more land than we would.
You guys are exclusive handlers
Right.
of that product. You plant with no other.
We bid that out every, 5 years or something like that.
3.
Is this granulated? pre-oil or fertilizer, or will?
No, it would be it's 33% solid, consistency, of course, here, it's,
Be more like a liquid slurry?
no, it's pretty solid, it'll stack up, we load it, 33% solid sounds very wet, but it's pretty dry.
Yeah, 20% is about like if you squeezed it like some mud and it would stick together, that's about 20%.
You can almost walk on the pile, I mean,
Yeah.
with little sunlight, you could walk over the pile.
So it's spread like spreading lime then?
We spread it with manure spreader. It's a Knight brand, Maple Coon manure spreader. So it's, instead of fans, it's more of the manure type spreader, glitter.
The reason I was asking, I hauled some, it's been several years ago, down into Cullen County, it came out of Florida, it was regulated, like pre-oil, like fertilizer. It had all the specs that came with it, EPA approved, and everything was there. When you pulled it out, you had all your little labels to it. I farmed, so that's why I was asking you how that was.
Do we have any questions from the audience before we go for the people that put on the presentation, before we go to the people that like to speak?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Is E. coli the only thing that you test for whenever you test the water, the flat rock?
Those particular samples, I think, is that all we tested for?
So why would you only just test for E. coli when there's so many more different things that can be in there? I used to take my kids to Flat Rock Creek to swim, and I won't anymore. And the reason I won't is because there's no life form in that creek anymore. You have a creek, there should be all kinds of life form in there. There's nothing in there.
Yeah, what I can tell you is, what we do, we have setbacks off of waterways, creeks, and ponds that we have to meet according to standards, and we meet those. And when we send out our biosolids, what we know is that they meet standards that are set, for EPA sets.
For the EPA, so how many times has the EPA actually came this year to your plant and tested? How many times have they actually been to these ponds and Flat Rock and the creek and tested? The EPA, not your company, the EPA.
I don't know if EPA has been, the state, the EPA would not normally come because the state of Tennessee has primacy, over the rules. So the state of Tennessee directly enforces the rules for us. The state of Tennessee audits our program fairly regularly. I'm not sure how often. They haven't come. The complaint about these particular samples came to us through ADEM. So, that, because it's in Alabama. And then the state of Tennessee regularly audits our program. And actually, that's where we got the award, like for our pre-treatment program, because the state of Tennessee recommends that kind of thing when they see a program that's run well. So what we do is we have to verify that it meets the standards.
So
there was a
basically, the
complaint.
EPA has not been out and checked anything themselves. It's just been
They would
y'all's
not
company
normally do
that has checked.
Alabama has been out.
Alabama EPA, what was their
At
findings
ADM.
and how long ago was it?
It's been this year, more than once this year they've been out. We had a high E. coli finding in one pond, which is why we went back and did E. coli sampling on all those that were listed. We
So
wanted to
since
follow
it was
up and make
high,
sure.
will the EPA come back out then and check it again instead of this company checking it?
No, I wouldn't think so. Now,
Why not if it's high? I mean, this is our community that we're
Actually,
talking
they-
about. This is
I
our
believe they
water,
did.
our kids.
well, here's the thing. When you look at an E. coli, you can look at it one day and it'll be one thing, and if a flock of geese flies over and happens to, release something in the pond, it's going to be out the roof the next day. So anytime there's wildlife around, that's what you see. And that's what we see. And it comes E. coli, fecal, it comes from mammals, any types of mammals. And what we know is when we meet the EPA regs and TDEC rules, they say that protects the community, it protects the waterways from that kind of contamination. That's what we know, that's what we go by. And kind of high, you can get most ponds around various times are going to have a high E. coli content, just depending on the animals around. It's just the way it is.
There's no animals in Flat Rock Creek.
If we would, let's, anybody else have this limited, one question, go ahead.
That Rock Creek there, when it's running, foam will be that high and stunk like a skunk.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw
It's
some of
going
those
straight to the river, and our water filter plant is in the river. We gotta drink it. I buy a bottle of water and jug water, it costs me out the yang.
Exactly.
I'm part of it.
Me too.
Anybody else, one question? We got about 6 people lined up to talk, so if we would limit one question, go ahead.
All right. My question is this, now, let me explain to you first. I'm not the sharpest drawer in the patch here, but, and I know a lot of people that's got a college degree, and I'm proud for you, and everything else, but sometimes a little bit of common sense will carry you further than book sense. And all this waste is over the almighty dollar. That's what it is. Nobody has no respect for nobody else. It's all over the almighty dollar. That's what it is. Nobody cares. It's all over the dollar.
Hey,
Okay, go ahead, sir, I'm sorry.
don't forget, I got my turn coming
Okay,
in a minute.
okay, we'll go ahead with people that,
Mr. Ashford, may I just ask one question?
go ahead, Miss.
Please, have you tested the, in Flat Rock Creek, Jones Creek, also Bryant Creek, has heavy metals been tested on those locations?
I don't, we would not have tested for heavy metals in those locations. We test for metals in our product that goes out. And that's the slide you showed that, it shows our average, and we do that on a regular basis. And if there's no heavy metals in that product, there's not going to be any heavy metals in that creek that came from our product. That's what we're saying. We provide a product that we believe it does meet all the regulations that we have to meet. And we believe it's a beneficial use for the community. And I can't answer about the water in a certain creek. But I can tell you what we do is test for the metals in that material. And it is well below EPA and state guidelines.
You realize that, just to follow up on Mesa, you do realize that those heavy metals, they build up within the biosphere. I mean, it's just not like, although your ships that you put on that land coming out, that direct application may have an acceptable level, but that acceptable level builds up over time.
It only builds up if you apply repeatedly. And what we do, we have a third party that tracks our material. It's called Material Matters. And they make sure what limits us is pH. Metals aren't even anywhere close to limiting as far as the application rates. And we apply to a place, what'd you say, every 18 months at the most?
Well, I mean, it could be.
Or more often, possibly. But
No more than once.
what we're limited by normally is pH and lime. Metals don't come anywhere close to being limited. I mean, we're talking 100 years, 200 or 300 years is what the EPA regs say. If you stay on with their levels of application, then there's just not going to be a problem with metals as long as you're within their regs.
Okay, if you would, let's move on to the public comments, the people that have signed the sheet, here, the sign-in sheet. First we have Sharon Thomas.
You want to get there?
Ed, it's up to you, man. You might want to stand so we can hear. And try to keep it brief. We've got about 6 people here.
Okay, but I'm with this group because they asked me about, almost a year ago. We have the same problems in my community, Vegas, it's still in the Flat Rock area. The sewage, we call it sludge, sewage came from the same treatment plant in Chattanooga. They didn't spread it, they put it in a landfill, it's a strip mine, and we still got that. It was an article, I still got the articles, if anybody wants to read them. And how much money the city of Chattanooga was gonna make at our expense. We contacted Adam, we contacted the EPA, we contacted everybody from Washington down, when it heard it was CDA reports, and they backed off. We still got that in our community. A lot of us, they went ahead, I think, for public water. And half the people out there can't afford it. 60% of those wells were contaminated within 6 weeks. And Flat Rock Creek goes into Holy Creek, goes into Dry Creek, goes into Monday Branch, into Coon Creek Gulf, and into the Tennessee River. And now, the magazines that I get do not eat fish because of the concentration of mercury. And just like Mr. Morgan said, over time, this builds up in the muscles of these fish that people are going to eat or whatever. But I think it's a bad thing, and I know that, there's two different sides to this, their side and our side. But we're going to try to get it stopped. We have a right and privilege to get petitions signed to get 10% of the voters to put this on the voting list. Because I know I've lived out there all my life and lived with this crowd, and you just have no idea what that makes you feel. The people in Scottsboro have no clue of what folks out in the country have to put up with. And it's just like the city of Chattanooga put us, we're making a profit at their expense. And I don't appreciate that, and I don't think any of these other people that live out in the country, we like country life, but the city people need to understand what we're going through, and we don't want it. And we're still trying. 2008, I still have the paper article out the most of the time. They were worried, Adam was worried about the high content of E. coli and mercury levels that were still in what they dumped from the city of Chattanooga, Moccasin Bend, sewage treatment plant. So that's what I'm saying, it's gonna be a long process either way, but I'm not for it. I don't think it's a good idea, because I know what we've gone through, and this is one of the highest concentrations of cancer in the United States, is Sand Mountain. And I know, you've got so many things that play a part, and you talk about the pH in the water. I know the strip mine, that, they tried to get the pH level up, they never could get it above 2.5 or 7.5. And it's just a bad situation to go out and get it. But you take all that stuff out of the sewage treatment plant, I think biosolids to me just a coded name for sewage and sludge. Because I went to that facility and walked through and saw how they did what they did to make it better and all this. They done 54 loads of that in this pit and never covered it. There were so many flies, green flies, you couldn't open your mouth, you couldn't breathe. And that's what these people are talking about. They're seeing the green flies. They're seeing, and you get, and let me ask, this is getting kind of off track, but talk about diseases. I've read a lot on diseases that stay in the ground or stay in people that die with the plague, goes back to the Indians. You dig those bones up there, that disease is still there. And you've got Hep C, you've got HIV, you've got all these diseases that are coming from Burlington Hospital, all these other hospitals that go into that facility. How do you know that you kill that disease? Because in my ADAM regulations book, pathogens and things like that, if it is airborne, you can catch it. And that's some of the concerns of me, and really, like I said, where they live, as the crow flies, it's like 4 miles. And I do know the creeks and rivers and how it runs, and it goes into the Tennessee River. And like I said, Scottsboro, the people that live here, they don't have a clue.
I can answer that if you want. How we know about diseases and that kind of thing, we don't measure for those diseases. Obviously, there's just so many things we have to measure for. But what we do is, in the solids before they leave the plant, we measure for fecal coliform. We take samples on a regular basis, and the fecal coliform count that we get on a regular basis is less than 1,000 colonies per, per sample. Now, what that means is, it sounds like a lot. The reality is, the limit is 2 million colonies. So we're so far below, and what we measure the fecal for, and what EPA says, you measure this as an indicator organism. If you show that, and the fecal itself is not necessarily a problem, it doesn't even necessarily cause disease, but if you reduce that significantly, what the EPA guidelines, and you can read it right in there from their studies, that indicates that you're getting a good kill on everything else, generally, that's in there. And that's what we have to go on. And that's how we say, we're doing the best we can with what we have, and it meets the standard. We're meeting a standard actually for a Class A biosolids. We're called Class B. We're meeting the Class A standard for pathogen reduction, which is just the reduction of things that cause diseases.
Well, let me ask you this, back in 95, we had a private.
Let's pertain to now, we need to hurry and
Well,
wrap
I
that,
will
these
get
5
that
more
because
people.
I have their report and I needed them to look at it and the coli that was checked in April 28, 2017. And if you look at this for me and give me an idea of what we're talking about and kind of.
Maybe we can do that after.
Decipher this and let you know what it means, because the number is very high.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
The next one we have on the list is Dean Smart. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's just like I said a while ago. I'm not the sharpest drawer in the pack, don't claim to be, but this stuff right here, like I said, I think it's all over the dollar. I think it's what it is. But, like, I've got about a $35,000 in-ground pool. We couldn't even lay out around the pool half the time. All right? You got to put a gas mask on to lay out there. People go by, they think you're snorkeling. I mean, you cannot enjoy your own property. I've been there for 30 years. This is the first time, and flies, gnats. You people in the city ain't seen nothing. Believe me. Now, I'm not downgrading nobody in the city, but like this lady here said, out in the country, I mean, you buy a place to enjoy when you retire. And you can't even enjoy your own place for the smell. When you go out there of a mornings, you want to smell the roses. Well, it ain't roses you smell, and I'm promising you that. And it smells like you've been in an outside toilet all night long. And the smell is so unbearable, you can smell it. Like I said, I live in Roseland. We meet at the community center. You can smell this stuff 3 miles away. That's how strong it is. And flies, like I said, you people in the city ain't seen nothing. I mean, I tell you what, let's do. If you think I'm wrong, take a load of this and dump in your front yard and see what you think about it. I mean, it is so nasty. Think about the people that is on oxygen that can't sit outside because of the smell. Think about that. What if that was y'all? What if y'all were on oxygen? You got to have it to breathe. You like to sit out on your front porch, but you can't do it because of the smell. Now, and then like I said, all this is over is the dollar. That's all it is. It's over the almighty dollar. People trying to save money, and there's nothing wrong with trying to save money, but have a little bit of respect in the meanwhile. There is none.
Just for information, I'm the only one that lives in the city. The rest of these people live out there.
I don't don't, like
I
I
grew up
said,
in the county, but I do currently live in the city, but the rest of these people live in the county.
Hey, regardless where you live, you don't want it in your front door.
Oh, I know.
promise you
Okay,
that.
the next person that we have that is signed up, I believe is Gerald Pike.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Mel, could I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Okay, you know, me and you rode around,
Yes, sir.
remember that? What happened to that sample that I gave you? And you told me, said, that is our product.
Right.
But then we got the report back and you told, it's chicken liver. So how do we know that the other analysis is not being changed or something? Now tell me, you explain that to me.
My first reaction was by the smell.
And
when
you
I
said,
looked
look
at
at it, you said, that is
I
our.
said, that looks exactly like ours, didn't it?
Uh-huh.
But then when I took it to the lab, I told you I was mistaken, that it was chicken liver. And that was my honest mistake, and I did tell you that I was mistaken, that I honestly thought it was our material until it got to the lab and it was tested and it was not. And I apologize for that it was my mistake.
Okay. Now, the other question is, you told me that in Tennessee, they had a regulation about spreading it certain close to
Yes.
the house, resident,
Yes.
or waterway, but you said it's supposed to do the same thing in the state of Alabama,
Right.
but it's not been done.
Alabama's regulations are very lax compared to Tennessee.
I know, I remember you telling me that, and you
Right.
said, Denali, supposed to
Right.
do the same thing they
And
did in
they
Tennessee,
have to abide by the.
but they have
law
not done
quality.
it.
In your area, they have not
No,
done it.
Flat Rock Church has to, okay.
Well, can we talk to you after this also, so the other people can go, or do you want to, it's up to you?
It is, for my opinion, it's about our whole community and the communities around us. And our children that are sick, our elderly that are sick, the people that are dying in our communities,
Yeah.
that it's, and
Okay.
it attributes to it.
Okay, is that all, Mr. Pike?
Okay, one other thing I want to tell you this. I don't know, below our house, it was dumped in coal mines. I don't know, probably hundreds of loads dumped. I went by there one morning and I looked out. There was dogs and coyotes out licking on them. You know what that is? It's blood that they was licking up. That's all I got to say about that.
Okay, the next person that we have that is signed on the list is Barbara Holland.
We had sludge sprayed on the property across from our house, and it started in 2015. A well in the springs on our property was contaminated. I had it tested through the health department, and we had E. coli and chloroform or coliform, or whatever you call it. Through the health department, they don't tell you how much it has, it just says it's contaminated. We spoke to the person, or people that was responsible for this, and they said they didn't know there was a well there, but they never made no effort to come and ask me if there was a well there. I had the decency to speak to this person's wife sometime before this, when I was going to spread rat poison around my house, and they had a dog that was running loose, and an expensive dog. So I went and told him, I have the decency to do that. But what do I get in return? This mess. They have no respect for anyone. You have got sick people in these communities that are dying. They can't spend their last days in any peace. They're trying to get away from this smell. You've got family members that are out trying to take care of them. They've got more than they can deal with. The whole community has got anxiety, as my husband says up there, ain't it? And we shouldn't be having to live with this. We know what it causes. And like the other people said, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. Everyone that is spreading this stuff can afford to do better. And I think it's time people, Jackson County, wake up, and if we can do something about this, we've got to sign these petitions and get it on the ballot. That is nothing but fair. That's all I've got to say right now.
Thank you, ma'am. The next person on the list is Melissa Roberts.
Just like I said, said before about the EPA not actually coming out and testing, and like they was talking about the wells being contaminated. Our well was contaminated. My neighbor's well was contaminated. I was perfectly healthy whenever I moved to Flat Rock in 2005. I was diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer in 2009. You tell me that's not linked to that? I'm always sick. My kids are 5 and 7 years old. They're always sick. You think that has nothing to do with that? You think it's just a coincidence? It has to do with what y'all are putting on our land. I'm 38 years old. I've been dealing with this since I was 30. It's ridiculous. We signed petitions. There was petitions in every single gas station, at every place. How many people is it going to take to sign that petition for this to stop?
And they get ripped down.
Yes. It's ridiculous. Do you not understand now? All I want to do is see my kids graduate school. I want to be there when they get married. Now I have this rare form of cancer and I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Is that right?
Okay, the next one that I have on the list is Judy Pike.
Okay, I'm teacher mode, so I can't do nothing sitting down. And I got my best friend from Flat Rock back here to back me up.
You can just go to.
No. First of all, one of the things, and I spoke with this lady over the phone when I heard about the issues, and she did come out, and I did ask lots of questions. But the main thing that she told me, there was no Alabama regulations. We had to abide by Tennessee's. Okay, below where we live, and people already talked about it, there is at least a 4-strand barbed wire fence that foam goes to the highway when it was foaming over. The Mr. McKee that works with the mining company told me that the dam was cut from before the mine was ever released, and he said you should have to test the water if you won't think it's bad. And I'm going to say this, I have no personal bias against the family that's putting it out. As a matter of fact, and Nick's sitting here, his dad, my horses were stolen. He helped me relocate them. So I went to him. I've talked to Mr. Corneliuson every time that I had a concern. And one of the things is, in our community, we saw an influx of people with diarrhea, vomiting. The doctors cannot diagnose what it is. We have people who have been maybe have a medical condition. We've lost no telling how many people in our community. One that just lived like maybe from here that wall past the creek that it was going into. And that's what's happening to our community. And that's why, something's got to be done. One of my good friends, and Sherry back here, she can vouch for this lady whose property joins where it's being put out at, in 3 generations, there had never been a case of pink eye in their cattle. Her cattle, she has lost at least 4 or 5 of her high purebred cattle. She has lost a dog, which the vet said felt sure it was E. coli. She's just lost a registered quarter horse. And none of these problems she had until this was put out. And this is on the property that joins it. And the main thing, my husband mentioned briefly, I guess, and there again is, I spoke to Mr. Corneliuson on this myself, because I respect him, and I just spoke to him and said, I need to talk to you about something. He leased the Wheeler Farm, which is next door to Flat Rock Baptist Church. We built a church pavilion where we feed our youth and have church outings and things. We have a wonderful program in the Flat Rock community called Faith Warriors, where we take care of children. I mean, we provide food, and we give money to the school to help children who don't have food, those kind of things. Well, they go to have, and I'm thankful that I wasn't there that night, because they got there, and how would you like to clean feces off your church pavilion where you cook the food for your children? And yes, I went to Mr. Corneliuson and I spoke to him about this. He assured me it was chicken litter. Well, the people that cleaned it off will tell you it wasn't chicken litter, because you can tell the difference in it. It was spread on the side of our church and those kind of things. Thankfully, they have purchased the land for Mr. Wheeler, and he moved the fence back a little bit, but you don't take the smell. And plus, she also told me that it could not be spread very close to schools or churches. Well, we're next to Flat Rock School, and it's all the way around it. So, we've taken a beautiful community where people cared about each other, everybody knew their neighbors, and they treated them that way. And now we can't even enjoy our church. The kids can't enjoy the playground at school. And to think that this is an answer, one thing that was, and I believe she also shared this with me, or someone did when I spoke to them, that the goal of this product was to help the farmers who couldn't afford fertilizer. This is my response. The poor farmer, he thinks more of his land than that. And if you think it's bad, you think anybody's exaggerating here, just drive down Highway 71 in Flat Rock and go all the way to Rosalie and wherever. That is destroying our community. It's taking people's lives. So can we say, well, they died because of that? You take somebody that their immune system is down, it don't take much. I can tell you personally, I have been sick since October of last year, and just recently been able to find some kind of improvement. Health issues that people never had, they're having them now. So y'all can, I know we're from the mountain, we're not in, I don't know where all y'all live from, I do know the land from working with the schools. But Flat Rock is a community that was built on pride, and it's being destroyed by money. Where Barbara and them live, it's awful over there. Because of course when you clear cut all the land and there's nothing to stop the odors. And my husband and we went to the Flat Rock Creek and told people, get your kids out of the creek. It's not safe. Because like she said, the very dam that was cut, it had to be put back to the coal mine to meet their standards. It fed into a little creek, which the man next door, he's one of the ones that passed away. It feeds into all these creeks. It goes right down to Flat Rock Creek. And like he said, it feeds onto our water supplies. So where do we even get water anymore that's safe? Just tell us. The wells are no good anymore. And like I said, the creek, which used to be where they had the baptizings. Everybody had Flat Rock Creek, you had the baptizings. Y'all, very few are going to be there. I wouldn't want to be baptized there. But for you to really get a feel about this, you need to come out into the community. And like I said, start at Pisgah, Rosalie, and those places and drive through. And see what the people are going through. And it wouldn't even have to take a ballot. Something would be done. But the bottom line is, God's still in control. And He's who we should be serving. And it's not the dollar. But He also teaches us to care for our neighbor and the people around us. And especially our children. Because what's going to be the long-term effect on these children? How many of them are going to have leukemia? What's the chances this lady that's already been diagnosed, her children having the same disease? If we don't know where it's coming from. So I challenge you tonight to do something and not let money decide. It's easy for him to say what's going on, whatever. He don't live at Flat Rock. If he came and lived right there where the phones, over the fences and everywhere, it gets over the road, he'd have a different tune if he had to live there. But most people in Flat Rock don't have millions of dollars that they can do all these things because they're there, they live there. Where we live, my dad took service money and worked at a spinning mill to pay for our property because TVA took his land in the Stevenson, the Hollywood area. That's what a serviceman came home to. So they've worked for it to be for generations, not to just be hoarded up for people who want money or want to destroy the way of life. So I just encourage you, what would God do? What would He say is the right thing for these people and for these people that are sick? Because that's where you're held accountable to. It's not by the vote, because we can vote somebody in and out next time. But the day of judgment, God will make that decision. And we all need to think about, have we treated our neighbor? And what are we doing? Do we really care about humankind? Or do we care about the money? And there's no way you can tell me that it's okay to haul human waste. It's no way you can tell me that's all right. And people that work at the hospitals will tell you that stuff is going straight into the system. And I spoke to a young man that I know that he owns some coal mine land, and it got wrote out that his land was being sprayed with it. He said, no, because the human waste is the least dangerous amount of thing that is in that water. or in that sewage they're putting out. So if human waste is the least of the problem, can you imagine what the real problem is? And I close with that.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to thank you all for being a real respectful audience tonight, and we are hearing your complaints, and I'd like to ask, will you be taking questions after the meeting, or?
Sure, we can, and I'd like to respond a little bit, if I could.
Okay.
So what's been said, I hear you, and we hear you. That's why we're here, that's why we're here to present what we do. And I hear the things about the wells, and I understand. I would not want that in my community either. I wouldn't want my well contaminated. But what I believe is what we're doing, this plan, is when, you talk about human waste being spread. Human waste is not being spread. What this is what we presented. It's microorganisms that treat human waste. Yep, they eat the contaminants that are in the wastewater. That's what they are. And so it is derived from human waste, sure, and from other things.
Let me just say this on that. The human waste, it was on our church pavilion, that wasn't all these other things. You can tell what human waste is.
Can
I speak to that, those allegations? Can I just say this real quick? What was spread at their church was actually cow manure from the barn. And you know a guy named Gleason Brown?
Yes, I
Mr.
do.
Brown is who spread that. You can ask him yourself, okay? In addition to, on the foaming issue, there's a guy, I don't know his name, he lives down from that pond, and we raised the tile 18 inches. We raised the tile 18 inches because it was flooding his house out. Well, lo and behold, the mining company, we had no idea, they had that pond as part of their runoff that they never paid lease for. So they turned around and filed a petition with the state to have us to put it back. Well, that gentleman that lives down the road from there, every time it rains, it floods his house out. So we raised the tile up to hold back water so it would not flood his house out. Well, when the state mining commission found out we had raised that, they was going to pull their bond, which is going to cost them about $2 million. So they asked us to put it back where it was so they could get their bond closed out. So we put it back where it was. When we did that, we adjusted the water level in the pond 2 times in less than 4 months, and that is why that foamed up. I mean, it's clear. So just FYI.
Well, the thing about the cow manure,